Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. You guys know me. I'm Nancy Ganzikoffer, business coach and body language trainer to interior designers. And I am here with my exceptional bookkeeper, Colleen LeMay of C2 Accounting. And welcome, Colleen. How's
Thank
everything today?
you. It's good. It's a great Wednesday. Glad to be here.
It's a great Wednesday. Well, this topic is particularly of interest to everyone right now because some people, their business is kind of stabilizing or going down a little bit during the season for interior designers. The
Mhm.
summer is hard sometimes. And talking about budgeting for success, planning for revenue and expenses that you know are coming up or that you might have to look at canceling, correct?
Yes, exactly. So, one of the things when people talk about budgeting, I feel like even though it sounds like a simple term, that sometimes there are misconceptions around it or people mean different things. When you think of a budget, it really is just a plan, right? It's your goal. How are you going to spend your money? And so, what's most important to understand is that it is a living, breathing document. Like you just kind of like your business plan, you don't just make a budget
Yes.
and just leave it. You have to go back and take a look at it and make sure it still makes sense because things happen, things change, and you need to make sure you're keeping up with those changes.
Yeah, because people really feel like, well, I set my budget, but now things are going a different way. What do I do now? So I like the fact that you said it's kind of a living, breathing thing. You don't just set a budget
Hmm.
and then don't revisit it for a year or two. You have to check in at least quarterly, if not monthly,
Exactly,
correct?
exactly. Because you could be either making a lot more money than you planned, or you could be making less than you planned. And so, kind of seeing where that goes. And for a lot of us, I mean, as business owners, honestly, we have very little control over how much our revenues are. I mean, we can sell our butts off, but at the end of the day, the only thing we really truly can't control are expenses. So with revenue, you can have the I think of when you're budgeting for revenue, it's a goal. Like I want to make 1 million in services this year and 2 million in product sales. That's a goal. I mean, you put it in the
Yes,
budget, but doesn't mean it's going to happen. But your
correct.
expenses, like your rent, your advertising, those are things that you have a lot more control over.
Yes.
And so those are the things you really, when you talk about budgeting, you're really looking at what you can control.
Yeah, and then you might have to make some hard decisions as the CEO, the owner of your business, the
Hmm.
lead designer, whatever you call yourself. You're responsible for the success, financial success of your business and of yourself, right? So,
Exactly.
how do we start this off then?
So one of the things you want to do, obviously, let's look at your past financials. So if you are, keeping up with your numbers and you're looking at those P&Ls, understanding like how much am I actually spending to run my business? Right. That's one part. The other part, if you're an interior designer, what is my markup? How much am I actually spending on cost of goods sold? And when you're thinking cost of goods sold, we're not just talking about your actual purchases, but we're also talking about your subcontractors, your installers, your freight, your shipping, your receiving. It's like all of those things are all cost of goods. So
Yeah.
making sure when you're thinking about that margin that you're considering the whole picture and not just the furniture costs 1,000, I'll sell it for 1,500 kind of a thing.
Yeah, a lot of designers just kind of pass through the shipping, delivery, storage, where there are some states you can put a little margin on that too to sort of secure your profitability in every area of your business.
Exactly. I have a client who does kind of a flat. I think I want to say it's either 15 or 20% that she does when it comes to incidentals. It does two things. One, it keeps her from having to do a bunch of invoicing, sending a lot of micro invoices to people, which
That's
can
what I teach.
drive clients nuts. But two, she realizes that sometimes shipping things may be a little bit more than she anticipated. So she may make a little bit less, but in other times the shipping could be less, so she'll making more. So in the end, she's still making money off of that, but it's not this process where she has to spend so much time and energy managing it. Like this is what we charge, and it's done, one and done.
Yes. Well, I would assume that's one of my Profit Insider clients because that is what
Yes.
we teach is to flatten out those fees and make sure you're covering your expenses. It's crazy to me for every single item that interior designers order that they then go, well, this is how much this was for shipping, and then local storage, and then delivery. And itemizing every single thing out is such an administrative and bookkeeping nightmare,
Right.
not just for the designer, the business owner, but also for the client. They're like, didn't
Exactly.
I pay for that already? How many and if you're floating that until you're billing them at the end for all that money, that means your company is supporting that expense until the client reimburses you.
Right.
if
Yeah, exactly.
they, so it's not a smart move to do it like that. But
So
um,
when you're analyzing past that data, make sure you're looking at what does it really have cost you in the past to do your subs, your contractors, your installers, and things like that, right?
yes,
So once we
absolutely.
have some past information, um, looking at your recurring expenses, the things that software. Oh my goodness, we all know the software is one that we have to have in this day and age. Some of us, and I'm not going to lie, I'm one. I have some bloat in my tech stack, some things that I may not actually need, but I kind of like. So when you're
Yes,
looking at what can you cut, then that could be a place. So looking at your previous stuff, right? So now then we look at kind of projecting revenue. So also by looking at your previous financials, you can go, okay, I know summer is a downturn. So if I'm normally doing 50,000 a month, I'm probably going to do 30. So let me plan for that. So can I manage my expenses to cover those downturns, or can I stash cash during those good months to cover those down months? So that's a
exactly.
lot of what this whole budgeting thing is for. Is it's not just to look at the numbers, but it's like really planning cash flow, understanding like, okay, if I can't lower my expenses because rent is what it is, I can't really change it. I don't want to have to cut my team's hours. Well, then I need to make sure I'm saving cash for those good months to cover those lower.
Exactly. How many months can you float your business expenses when business is down in order to work towards bringing the business back up? So you have to make these decisions as they're happening, really,
Mhm.
not waiting too long. Because if you wait too long to make these cuts or decisions that are difficult in your business, you could be in a terrible financial situation by then.
Exactly. And if you are getting financial reports monthly from your favorite bookkeeper, then you should be looking at those numbers and kind of understanding. One of our reports shows things like your top expenses for the month. Take a look at those and see where those trends are. We're happy to show our clients how to go into QuickBooks and run multi-month reports so they can see literally each month compared to the previous year. Get a little nerdy about the numbers. I mean, don't be scared and definitely don't put your head in the sand.
Yeah, which is what a lot of creatives like to do because it is overwhelming to look at your numbers and face it, right? But putting your head in the sand does not solve it. It just basically makes it worse and worse and worse until it's going to cost you more money to get out of the situation you've
Right.
created.
So I think you just touched on something there. You said that it's worse to put your head in the sand than to face it. And I think that when times are good and there's a lot of cash, people don't look at the numbers because
I know.
I don't need to look at the numbers. I have money, a few hundred
Yeah,
thousand in
there's
the
money
bank.
in the bank. Yeah,
However, when times are bad, they're like, "Oh, I don't look at the numbers because it's going to freak me out." So it's like, okay, come on. At some point, we have to look at the numbers.
you have to look at the
And that's
numbers.
what I find that's happening a lot.
Yes.
And by looking at the previous things, trying to plan and figure out where the trends are, and then having some emergency fund, like you talk about profit first, the profit account could be partly for taking distributions to the owner, but also as an emergency fund to cover things and start to set aside money for the future, for those inevitable times where every business will go down at some point. Having cash for that, cash is king.
Yeah. Yeah, siphoning out a little bit, emergency fund, profit account, however you want to look at it. Sometimes I say it's a reputation account you can create also for your business if something
Hmm.
goes wrong. Siphoning out your cash like your mother used to do in envelopes. I'm aging myself. How much for food, how much
Yep.
for clothes, how much for this, but budgeting properly and then sticking to it and then reanalyzing it on a regular basis so that you
Hmm.
don't get caught surprised with anything that happens in your business.
I had a conversation with a client, I want to say it was last week, and she's in a downturn. She's an interior designer, and cash is king right now. And she was going to pay off. She has a big job coming in. And she was going to pay off um, her line of credit and the credit cards. And we talked about it, and we realized. And I said, the credit cards, yes, the interest rates are ridiculous. Pay those off. But your line of credit, the rate was so low, and the reason she was going to pay off the line of credit so that she had the credit available in case she needed to borrow again. I was like, no, no, no. And this particular line of credit charges a flat fee for every time you take a draw. So, well, no, that's an
Oh,
added cost. So let's do this. Let's make the payments on the, on the line of credit, pay off the credit card, but keep the cash in the bank, put it in a high interest, account. So you're actually earning some money on that, as
Yes.
opposed to paying off the car, paying off the line of credit, and then having to get that lump, because it wasn't just the interest rate that she was paying, it's that fee that I was like, I don't think that's going to be,
Yeah,
that's
that
going to
one-time
cost
fee
you
every
more.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's going to
ridiculous.
cost you more. So yeah, so have that emergency fund and think about cash. Um, and so when the hardest part about, I would say, budgeting is obviously budgeting revenues. And like I said in the beginning, it is just a goal. So, you know, whatever works for you. If your goal is to, if you did 1 million in sales last year and your goal is 1.25 this year, then that's your budget for the year. But understand that that's it's a
May
goal.
not happen, right?
It may
Yeah.
not happen. So
Yeah.
my thing is, I really want people to really focus on those expenses and see where they can focus things on. Um,
Right.
and then also, if you are an interior designer, setting those individual budgets for your projects, um,
Yes.
because that's going to be super important as well. You have your company budget, but you really have to look at those project budgets so things aren't nickel and diming you. But you don't want to nickel and dime your client, but you don't want to be nickel and dime either. So
Well, but I think it's important because I mean, I've had clients over the years that I've been coaching where they make, let's say $3 million on the top line and they only make $150,000 on the bottom line because they haven't set their client job budget properly and they've overspent. So if they got $5,000 for a sofa, they should be spending about 2,500. And I'm giving rough numbers here, guys.
right.
But they're going, you know what? That's beautiful sofa, and my cost is 4,500, and I'm just going to do it because it's going to make the room look so much better. And now they've just reduced their profitability on that job. So setting a budget on the individual jobs, setting a budget for your company as a whole is really important.
Mhm.
It's
I
really
could not
important.
agree more. So then, okay, we've talked about like how you should do it and kind of like the big picture. But if you are actually in QuickBooks, let's say you don't have a bookkeeper, or you have a bookkeeper and you just want to be able to go to QuickBooks and do this yourself, there is a tool in QuickBooks. If you have I think it may be in every version, but definitely in the Plus version, where it allows you to put in a budget, and so that when you run your financial reports, you can actually have, this is the actual versus the budget. So you can kind of track and see where you are. So then when you're doing those quarterly reviews, you can go, okay, maybe I do need to adjust things because maybe I had to get more software for a specific tool that I need that wasn't in the budget in January, but now we're putting it in June. So we need to change our software allotment for the rest of the year, and figure out where that money's going to come from.
Right. Adjust your budgeting accordingly.
Exactly. Do I need to cut back on travel because I need to pay for this? So that's
Yes.
that's that's the benefit. So
See, I've
whatever
never
you do,
used QuickBooks for budgeting, so I'd be curious to see this
yeah.
myself. You
Okay,
want me
let's
to
do
share
that.
screen?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do that. Share screen. I'm gonna look over here on my left because this is where my
Okay.
QuickBooks is.
I'm just going to get rid of our banners so that we can share screen and let everyone see the maximum.
Yeah, so this is our sample company over here. And if you go over to the gear icon,
Okay.
there's a little under tools, there's budgeting. And budgeting in QuickBooks, it's like a spreadsheet. It is the most basic version of budgeting. So let's pretend you're going to start brand new. If you have like a budget in Excel, you can import it. But for most of us, we're going to go ahead and create a new budget. So you just click create
The
new
green
budget.
button on the top right. Okay.
Yep. And then it asks you, how do you want to set this up? And we've been talking today about really profit and loss accounts. We're going to focus on that. And then
Okay.
the periods, we're going to do it for this fiscal year. Um, you have two options: consolidate it, which is like for the whole company, or subdivide it. And subdivide it with a hover is if you were using, like, for example, some companies may have multiple locations or different departments.
Divisions.
Yeah, but for this, I just wanted to show, so don't do that because for most of us, we don't need that. Pre-fill data, if you wanted to build your budget based on last year's like real numbers, you could do that. You can pull in your actuals and it will pull it in.
Oh, I like
And
that.
then you can just adjust. But I'm going to say,
Ooh.
because this is a sample company, there's not a lot of data in here, we're going to just start fresh. So it's already highlighted on create a custom budget from scratch. And we're going to hit next. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So what we can do here, I'm going to take out this compare reference
Okay.
because we don't have any data. So you can just come in and just put, here's my yearly budget. You could do it on a quarterly basis. You could do it on a monthly basis. So let's just throw in a couple of numbers here. So let's just say design income for the year, I think it's going to be 500,000.
Right?
And then let's see, what else do we have? Seller product income is going to be, let's say, 1 million. Is that 6 zeros? I think so. Okay. And then let's go down to our expenses. Well, cost of goods sold. I know that I always do 50% markup. So I know that my furniture purchases, if I'm doing 1 million in sales, I should have about 500,000. And then my business, I know I spend about 10% on all of my subcontractors and things. So I'm going to budget another 50,000 for subs.
Yep.
Again, that's because I know my business, right? I've looked at the past and I've done some math and go, okay, on average, I do 10%. And then I can come down here, you can put in materials and some shipping and things like that. But we're going to just jump down and let's say your budget for the year is 10,000 for accounting and another 15,000 for advertising. Oh, that's too much for
Yeah.
advertising.
I was gonna say, no, not that much.
And let's pick a couple others and then we're going to, let's
Well,
see.
like car and truck, it costs money for the designers to have their vehicles and their gas and all that.
And let's say you're in a coaching program, you're gonna spend another $10,000 for that. And
Absolutely.
then car and truck will put 5,000. So this is just our very basic budget, right? So I'm gonna
Mhm.
hit save. And then one of the things I like is that I can we're gonna change it to quarterly. So it took
And it
this budget
calculates it.
total and it spread it out and it did it evenly. So if you go to monthly, it's doing it evenly, but you realize, oh, well, my business isn't linear. So in
Mhm.
July, I know that we're probably going to do, let's see here. In July, I may only do 75,000 in here, but I know that right around the holidays, people are getting ready and they tend to buy more. So maybe
So
it's
then you can
100,000.
adjust
So
each
you could
month.
then adjust it. Same thing with
Nice.
your cost of goods sold. You could do this with your other expenses. So let's say you know that your recurring marketing is 1250 a month. However, every fall you are a sponsor at your chamber for some big event, and you need to make sure that I'm like, okay, that month is going to be 7,500 because I also have that sponsorship. So now you can look and see. Well, let's take a look at the bottom numbers down here. So my net income for the year 900,000, but obviously in July it's only going to be 67, whereas in October it's going to be 92. So if my expenses, are used to being at that 75,000 mark, I realize, I want to have a shortfall here. So let me figure out what I can do to cover it. So that's the whole point of this whole budgeting thing is kind of do some forward thinking. None of us are
Yeah.
magicians. None of us have a crystal ball. But this will help you start to see in the future a little bit more because you have some tools at your disposal.
Yes. Budgeting is I love what you said. Okay, so if you've been on QuickBooks for a while, you're able to pull in historical data into every category. You're
Hmm.
able to then look at it, say, have I increased or decreased these expenses for the coming year? Like you said, have I hired a coach? Did I buy her another car? What is going on? Did I buy another software? And then compare it to historical sales data that will automatically load into this budgeting on QuickBooks. This is amazing. It's
Yeah.
funny. Somebody said this is so helpful on Instagram. And I said, it's amazing what we don't know. Right. When
You're
you
already
said,
paying for the tools, so let's take advantage of them.
I know. And when you said where your tech stack for your business is high, so is mine.
Hmm.
Tech stack means how many software programs you need to do your job and give the clients a great product. Sometimes it gets overly inflated because we don't know that QuickBooks does this. And we just bought a budgeting software from somebody else because
Hmm.
budgeting is on our mind this month because we saw the video with Nancy and Colleen and we go, we got a budget. Let's buy a budgeting software
Yes,
or buy a system you've never had before where it's
exactly.
already built into possibly a system you already use like QuickBooks.
Hmm. And I would think most accounting software does it. So if you're using Wave, QuickBooks, uh, what's the other one?
Zero.
Zero. They all have some sort of budgeting feature in it. So just take a look and see what yours does.
This was
But
so
if you're
helpful.
using Excel, it's going to be a lot harder. So,
Well, that's the thing. Most people do an Excel spreadsheet and try to fill in all the things. And whether it's you are doing it, your manager doing it, operations department doing it, however big you are, it's built into your QuickBooks, and you could do it so much easier by having the historical data loaded in and then see what your projections are. Modify, look at it every quarter or every month if you're in a downswing, and make sure you're adjusting your expenses or figuring out how to get more income in before it's too late.
yeah, or if you have to pull on that line of credit, but understanding the key is not hiding from the truth and really understanding your business. You may love decorating beautiful spaces, but you're a business owner and you have to make sure that you put that hat on as much as possible as well.
Okay, love it. This was
All
so
right.
informative, Colleen. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Glad to
Tell
help.
everyone how to find you a rock star bookkeeping firm.
So right there on the page at c2account-accounting.com, we're here. We'd love to do a complimentary consultation to see how we could help.
Love it. Thank you so much. And we're
All
going to
right.
see you
Take
next
care.
month, and we're going to keep talking about budgeting, we think.
Yes. I don't know what we're going to talk about next month, but if
All right.
people have questions, more
Yes,
questions, could do a part two for sure.
absolutely. Okay, everyone, go have a great Wednesday. Have a great week. Somebody just said, "What is it?" I don't know what they mean by "what is it" on Instagram. What is what? I just want to wait another minute, see if she can or he can expand on that question. What is it? I don't know. So Colleen is a bookkeeping company, c2accounting.com. I'm not sure what they mean by what is it, but they can always ask afterwards
Yeah, I was
by
going to say,
coming
yep.
over.
Definitely expand that and we can go
Oh,
back.
your handle. Oh, so I guess on Instagram. Do you have an Instagram, Colleen, that you?
I do. It's not very active, but I will reinvigorate it. It is
That is your
it is C
incentive.
it is C2 accounting as well. As just we haven't posted in a long time.
Okay, so you're more found on Facebook and directly through your
Directly through our
website.
website. Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye
Colleen.
bye.